Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Sonyology. Hello there, YouTube. It is I, Skeletor, and I have pirated Sonyology's channel once again. Why, you ask? Well, a number of you in the comments have wrote to Skeletor asking what Skeletor thinks about the announcement of a new Netflix He-Man film. Now, I know that Sony and Hollywood have attempted to make a He-Man film several times, and they've even announced other actors as portraying He-Man, and they always somehow manage to fall through. So this is why Skeletor tries to remain grounded until it starts production. I, Skeletor, am skeptical that it's going to get done. But you all want to know what I think, so here you go. Now, I've looked online to find data and stuff, and the one channel that I've seen that covers it pretty good, I shall react to that, and I will give you my opinion, and that is Midnight's Edge. So, without further ado, let's watch what Midnight's Edge has to say about the new He-Man live-action film from Netflix. By the way, guys, go to Midnight Edge's channel and give it a subscribe.
Not content with subverting expectations in Kevin Smith's Masters of the Universe revelation.
Look at that face of his. It's like he doesn't care what he's done.
Netflix announced on Friday, January 28th that they're moving ahead with their live-action adaptation as well. This is a project that I want to be excited about, but I have to be honest. There are some major red flags here.
Well, the biggest red flag says Netflix right on it. That's the number one red flag for me. But yes, I agree with him. I want to be excited for this. But what do they all say? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Well, I'm Skeletor. I'm not ashamed of anything, but you get the picture.
Which tell me they're heading down the wrong path. In this editorial,
wouldn't it be awesome if they did like a whole cartoon that looked like this? Well, except for me being ragdolled by He-Man. Aside from that, this would be pretty awesome.
I will break down what has been revealed to the public thus far. What can be surmised from that? Plus, one extra observation I made based on our previous and extensive coverage of all things He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
The possible Barbie connection? That's an interesting one. I have my own connection with Barbie, which I will show you in a future episode, but I'm curious to see how this connects with Barbie. It wouldn't surprise me at all at this point if Mattel introduced a new Barbie He-Man figure, and then Barbie becomes the new He-Man, the She-Man, or something.
Everything we know comes from the official announcement, which was published in the trades. First and foremost, it confirmed our reporting from October of 2019, in that Sony has indeed sold a significant stake of their Masters of...
I like how they call it dumped to Netflix, like it's garbage. Nah, we don't want this. You can take it, it's garbage. Motu is garbage and gets dumped on someone? I doubt it. It's pretty popular. I have a hard time believing someone should just dump it.
Of the universe production that they've been trying and failing to get off the ground for a better part of a decade to Netflix. This movie, then, is first and foremost a co-production between Netflix and Mattel.
See, hold on. Now, see, I can kind of understand this, because the whole world has gone wokeaholic, right? And they're like, how do we make He-Man woke? It's really hard to do it in some subtle fashion, right? They've been pretty heavy-handed with their wokeness, as evident by Revelation. So Sony's probably like, you know what? We've had some bad luck with some properties that we've turned woke, aka Ghostbusters. We didn't do well with that. So you guys can take it, Netflix. You seem to not give a rat's. And Netflix said, sure, why not?
With Sony also there as a background production and funding partner. Secondly, it confirmed that the movie will still be directed by the Nee brothers, who are holdovers from the final...
Well, the Elbow brothers not available.
...iteration of the project at Sony. Someone who won't be returning, though, is the Nee brothers' original pick for He-Man, namely Noah Centineo. Centineo was cast in early 2019, a good 6 months before Netflix.
Yes, I see that guy right away. I say, He-Man. That looks just like He-Man. Look at that He-Man face. And I don't believe he was ever meant to be He-Man. I think they're going to go with the actor portraying Adam and then going for a more CGI-looking He-Man. Or this ridiculous bodysuit.
Netflix got involved, but the moment they may have demanded a retooling of the project. Centineo never really said anything about He-Man since then, so it comes as no surprise that he is no longer involved.
Maybe that's why he's not involved. He didn't do enough talking about He-Man. He said, why is he not talking about He-Man? We can't have a guy like this on the project.
Him as He-Man though, or more likely as Adam, is...
He's already bored taking that picture. I don't want a guy who's that bored playing He-Man.
One Kyle Allen. He has been in a few things, none of which I have seen, so I can't really comment on his casting. Beyond that, he looks the part a little bit more than Senti nailed it. Finally...
Yeah, I can see that.
The story is written by David Callahan, alongside the Nee brothers. The story's synopsis reads: in Masters of the Universe, Alan will play an orphan named Adam, who discovers he is a prince destined to be the savior of a faraway land.
So that's already sounding like the new He-Man series.
He must quickly learn of his power and the importance of saving his true home from an evil force.
Evil force meaning me!
Now that we have gone through what we know, let's move towards what we can surmise based on that, using informed speculation. This is where the fun begins.
Yes, and notice how he said this is where the fun begins when they put a picture of Skeletor, because that's usually when the fun begins.
Although I use the term lightly.
Was that a shot at me, Midnight Sage, after I was so nice to you?
To begin with the point of least concern, there is our new Adam, Kyle Allen. Now, I don't really know anything about him, or what he can bring to the table as an actor.
He looks like Adam dressed like that already. I'm sold. Just blonde up his hair a little. Put that ridiculous bowl cut on his head.
I have read that he is a dancer and an acrobat, so he's obviously extremely physically fit.
Because we know he's going to be doing all his own stunts for sure, right? He's like Jackie Chan now?
On the lean, thin, and wider side. He-Man needs to be bulky though, but for the time being...
He'll just drink milk, don't worry. Am I the only one who still thinks that Chris Hemsworth should be He-Man? He just seems like the obvious choice, does he not?
I'm not worried about that. The animated Netflix series Revelation really drove home the difference in size anyone transformed by the Sword of Power undergoes. And in keeping with that, I would imagine that when transforming to He-Man...
Because, everyone can just take that sword, apparently, in He-Man in the Revelation, and use it. Adam is pretty superfluous in the whole story.
Kyle Allen's physique will be CGI augmented into a mass monster. I don't know that will happen, and if it doesn't, we'll comment on that in due course. But for the time being, I choose not to worry about that, because there's plenty more to worry about.
I tend to agree with his analysis on the CGI aspect. I mean, they could go the costume route, which would be something they could do, or maybe even do a combination of costume and CGI. CGI probably for certain angles, and costume for up close, so who knows? But it probably won't matter anyway, because the way these things go, He-Man will probably not be even in the film for more than 10 minutes in the entire runtime, if we're lucky.
There is, of course, writer David Callahan, whose past output includes the Mortal Kombat reboot, Wonder Woman 1984, Shang-Chi, some Expendables movies, and various other schlock.
Wow! What a pedigree!
Not the greatest of writers. But on the level of each individual project, the writer is only as good as the one ultimately...
If he gets a tattoo of Skeletor on his face, I'm down with him.
Charge who sets the parameters and provides notes and direction. For instance, a mediocre writer can deliver an incredible script if assigned to a great director or producer, while a team of individually great writers can deliver utter garbage if placed in a writer's room ran by fools.
Touché! I agree with him on that for sure.
In this case, he is writing alongside the Nee brothers, but they are just the latest in a long, long line of filmmakers to be working on this. No, the ones really in charge are Netflix.
And that's really the problem, is it not? Because that's where the wokeaholics live.
They are now the primary stakeholder and bill payer. The announcement name drops Robbie Brenner and Kevin McKeon from Mattel Films, as well as Todd Black, Jason Blumenthal, Steve Tisch, and Devon Franklin, who are either producing and or funding this particular project. But what is suspiciously absent here is anyone from Netflix. Remember, Netflix calls the shots here, so the real buck stops here guy is someone who wasn't named in this announcement. That leads me to speculate that the one ultimately pulling the strings here is Netflix Ted Biaselli, and that
If Ted Biaselli is running this, then there is no hope for this series.
has me worried. By all outwardly measures, Ted Biaselli is a hardcore fan of the Masters of the Universe brand. The guy knows practically everything about it. Alas, that also means he knows exactly how to subvert and deconstruct it, because he is also what some might call a card-carrying SJW.
And I know that for a fact. I'm pretty familiar with somebody who knows him quite well, and he is very much a card-carrying SJW who likes to pull it out whenever he can. And I use that term quite loosely.
When it comes to adapting established franchises with a huge fan following, subversion and deconstruction is his jam.
See, people could like aspects of the Masters of the Universe, and then say, well, I'm a big fan of this, that, and the other thing, but then also say, well, I'd like to change it to suit what I would have liked to have seen when I was young. That's where the danger of having somebody like that run it, where it's like, I liked it, but I would have rather seen it go this direction. And I wonder what direction he'll take it.
Case in point, Masters of the Universe Revelation. Kevin Smith is blamed for it, but he was the showrunner in name only. He deferred to Mattel's Rob David, and first and foremost, to Netflix Ted Biaselli.
Yes, but the problem with Kevin Smith was that he was the face of the project, and getting mad at people for calling something what it was and then gaslighting the fans put the complete blame on him. If they'd come out and said right off the bat, this is what we're doing, we're making it around Teela, and He-Man's barely gonna be in the episode, but no. He lied to people's faces and said, A, it was a direct continuation, it was just false, and said also that it was going to revolve around He-Man and not Teela, which we know is also false.
So our exec at Netflix, Ted Biaselli, like, we had him at Netflix. I wasn't worried about the reaction of the audience because I knew who the audience was. I was working for the audience. Like, Teddy represented the exact customer we were trying to reach.
Not really.
And then in the process of making it, you realize, oh, we can expand it. It doesn't have to just be for fans, because we know every fan's going to bring their kid to the table and be like, this is what I watched when I was a kid. So, you know, we made it.
Yes, and how did that work out for you? Hey, son, I used to watch this. What the hell is this? Come here, Rise Connect, just murdering everyone. Go in the room, go in the room. This is not for you, son. Yes, I did not watch this when I was a child, son. I did not watch them kill my entire childhood.
Made it more accessible to not just, you know, it wasn't so deep cuts that only hardcore fans can understand it. Anybody can enter into the episodes and pretty much.
And watch the carnage ensue as they single-handedly destroy and murder all the people we love.
Follow along what's going on and enjoy it and stuff. So I never felt scared. I was never like, what's the audience going to say? Because I knew who the audience was. It was Teddy. And Teddy loved every single...
Yes, because one person speaks for an entire group these days. Isn't it interesting how we have a world where one person can represent an entire group of people? Ted Biaselli represents all fans everywhere, all the time. The ignorance of these people is astounding.
Step of the way. And if he didn't love something, he made it so that he did love it. He'd be like, can we do this? Can we add this? I'm like, oh my God, yeah. Knowing that since we had his sign off for everything, I was never worried about the audience seeing it, because I'm like, if that guy likes it, everybody's gonna like it.
Well, I bet you he worries now, doesn't he?
Kevin Smith should have challenged Biaselli, but make no mistake about it. It was Biaselli's insistence on subversion and deconstruction which destroyed that series. Again, I don't know for a fact that he is overseeing this production at Netflix, but from the released plot synopsis, we can already tell there is significant subversion going on here as well. If this production isn't overseen by Biaselli himself, it would certainly appear to be overseen by someone else with a similar penchant for deconstruction.
He-Man set on Earth. Here we go again. Is that real? Are they really going to do this again? God, I really hope not. And I'm here on Earth. But I wouldn't want a whole He-Man series set on Earth. Hey, Hollywood needs to stop that. It didn't work in the 80s, and it's not going to work now. Especially when you have such a rich mythology to draw from if you keep it in Eternia. But to bring it to Earth is just ludicrous.
Let's go back to the plot synopsis. In Masters of the Universe, Alan will play an orphan named Adam, who discovers he is a prince destined to be the savior of a faraway land. He must quickly learn of his power and the importance of saving his true home from an evil force. From that, we can extrapolate a couple of things. First and foremost, he's an orphan. So
Well, I mean, technically, that is also the plot line for the new He-Man series, right? He is an orphan, lives with the Tiger Clan, and was a prince of a faraway land. So, not so worried about that. So he's making a reach to say it's on Earth.
so no royal upbringing. He's an orphan who is pushing 30, but never mind that, because he's also a prince, one who is destined to be the savior of a faraway land.
That's another interesting part that I find. They never really describe why a prince like him is destined to hold the sword. And then at the same time, anyone could wield it. Because he's the prince, he's destined to hold the sword. Why didn't the king then hold the sword previous to him? Which he never did because he didn't even know that Adam was a He-Man. They never wrote that part well. I was still hoping that someone would explain with reason as to why Adam is the chosen one. I think the new animated series that we see now on Netflix has done probably the best job of explaining that than anyone.
I'm an honest-to-God prince.
Meaning he is not in that faraway land. His true home is implied to be that magical faraway land in which he is not currently present.
Hold on, does he actually say magical faraway land? Orphaning Adam discovers he is a prince destined to be the savior of a No, he doesn't say magical faraway land. You're putting that in there. Midnight's Edge, you think he says magical. He said faraway land. He did not put magical. You put magical. Not disagreeing with most of it, but I am kind of disagreeing with this point here. I mean, I could be wrong, you could be right, but I just don't see enough evidence to support that.
This we know. That begs the question, where is he as the story begins? Well, most likely he's right here on Earth, looking at the sky, wondering if he wasn't made for something greater. I say most likely he's on Earth, because we can always hope for the absolute best case scenario possible within that description.
Nah, I don't think so. I don't believe they'd go that route because of how well the fantasy genre does. I mean, The Witcher was popular. Netflix and Amazon are riddled with fantasy stories and fantasy shows and films. And knowing that they actually have a chance to go fantasy with this, I doubt they'd bring it back to Earth.
Which would be that they ripped off the secret of the sword and gave this He-Man a variation of the origin story written for She-Ra.
That kind of makes some sense that they did that. It would be kind of fun if they actually did write a story where both were orphans and both went to two different lands and we saw both stories simultaneous and then at some point they come together. See, now that would be a story that you could be quote-unquote sort of woke, where you have your female protagonist and we follow She-Ra's rise and then He-Man's rise at the same exact time. And at some point in the story, in the film or the series, if they make one, they would come together and fight the powers. You know, instead of forcing some other character to be, you know, better than He-Man or whatever, or take the power away, we would just go focus on one and then go to the other. Back and forth. Everyone wins that way. What has happened to me? Why am I talking about fairness? I have changed and not for the better.
You will recall that she was kidnapped by Hordak and taken from Eternia to Etheria, where she, for all intents and purposes, was an orphan from a faraway land. Although her adopted homeworld also was an alien world from the audience's point of view. However, it would make very little sense story-wise to make yet another different world in addition to Eternia, so chances are, a big chunk of the story will be set on Earth, thus repeating the one thing which was universally disliked about the 1987 movie.
Again, I think you're reaching there, Midnight's Edge. I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, anything could happen, and I think Hollywood's capable of any kind of stupidity. I still think that's a reach.
It's being set on Earth. Eternia is a character in the
He-Man driving a Cadillac. I always love that.
story. It doesn't matter if He-Man's mother is an astronaut from Earth. No He-Man movie has any business being set on Earth. If you want to kill excitement for a He-Man project right off the bat, then setting it on Earth is one surefire way of achieving just that. I get that since this is a straight-to-Netflix production, the budget isn't all that. But that's no excuse, as even asylum movies are set on different worlds. Ripping off the 1987 movie.
Now, again, just because it's a low budget, they've found so many different ways of faking a high budget. By number one, a lot of dialogue. When you do a lot of internal dialogue in Castle and then focus on one battle per episode, I really don't think that's a big deal. And also, there's a lot of money backing this. I mean, you said Sony is fitting the bill for some of it, I think. You have Mattel. They're going to make money off the toys. So they know if this is a success, the toys will subsidize this easily. And that's really why they're doing it. If this becomes successful, they will make a third and a fourth because the toy line will do well.
Ripping off the 1987 movie in this way is the last thing a new He-Man movie needs. However, the wording of that plot synopsis leads me to think they might have ripped off something else as well, namely Barbie.
They ripped off Barbie? Was Barbie set in a distant land that I don't know of? Remember, I was married to Barbie for a while. We'll get to that in a future date.
Yeah, you heard that right. Barbie.
So He-Man's gonna come with different type of accessories now. He's gonna come with a handbag, a purse, the He-Man Dream Castle.
As in Barbie and Ken. You see, Masters of the Universe isn't the only Mattel property that was languishing for years at Sony. That was also the case with Barbie. For a while there, Amy Schumer was attached to play Barbie.
Oh yes, that's a great casting choice. When I think of Barbie, I think instantly Amy Schumer, don't you?
We covered the production and development of that too, right here at Midnight's Edge. And because of that, I am able to spot parallels between what they were doing there to what they're doing now with He-Man. You see, ideas developed for one movie, if that movie doesn't happen, can very well be recycled and put to good use elsewhere. There is ample precedent for this. For instance, while the original 1987 Masters of the Universe never got a sequel was being developed. Of course, that sequel never happened, but not letting good, money-saving ideas go to waste. The producers and filmmakers behind it nonetheless recycled ideas and concepts developed for it in their later movies Cyborg and Captain America. I believe the same thing happened here. For years, Sony and Mattel spent millions developing a Barbie movie where the story was some variation of Barbara and Millicent Roberts.
But here's the thing. Barbie and He-Man are different. Barbie never needed a series to sell its toys. Barbie could sell its toys without a comic book, without a series, without a movie. So it doesn't rely on these things in order to sell their product. That's why it's so long-lasting. But He-Man does rely on the cartoon and the series in order to sell its merchandise and its toys, and they knew that. Mattel probably was like, I don't care what you do. We're not going to sell a new toy line. I mean, we may sell a new toy line, but I don't think sales are not going to matter one way or the other based on that film. All it does is introduce Barbie to a new audience. That's all it really does. But it doesn't really need it, because Barbie is as popular now as it was then. And why am I talking about Barbie?
Which is Barbie's real name. Traveling from our world into the fantastical faraway land of Barbie World, where she was destined to be what she wanted, I guess, and after some misadventures, she would learn that true beauty comes from within, or something.
As she looks beautiful on the outside all the time. They never made pimple-faced Barbie, did they? Not that I know of. Scar-faced Barbie, that'd be a good one. She got kicked in the face by her horse and was badly mutilated. Where she learns that beauty is on the inside. Fractured jaw, Barbie. Now you too can see the inside beauty in Barbie as she walks with a dangling jaw. Oh no, I can't put on my turtleneck without my jaw being caught in it. The commercial writes itself.
Something like that. They were never able to quite crack it, and from what I understand, director Greta Gerwig, who is currently making the Barbie movie with Margot Robbie, not Amy Schumer, is going with the
Well, Margot Robbie looks a lot more like Barbie than Amy Schumer. I wouldn't even cast Amy Schumer as Barbie's best friend, as I don't even think Barbie would associate with her.
The completely different story, as that one was long since discarded. Meaning, Sony and Mattel at the very least had the opportunity to recycle the concept for one of their other movies, which would be this one. But whether the concept was recycled from Barbie, or they made an original one that kind of sounds like...
But again, he's talking out of both sides. At first he said this belongs to Netflix, and Netflix is going to do what Netflix does, and then says, well, it belongs to Sony and Mattel could do recycle ideas. So it either belongs to Sony or then it belongs to Netflix. Who's in charge of this? Sony, Mattel, or Netflix?
Like it. The practical outcome of this green story is that He-Man is likely going back to Earth. That alone kills my excitement right there.
He no longer has a boner for Skeletor.
Know your thoughts in the comments. And before you go, Be sure to check out our extensive retrospectives detailing the history of the Masters of the Universe franchise. And subscribe so you don't miss.
That's amazing, everyone. Do what he just said. Go and subscribe. Maybe I should even check that out. Sounds fun. So, without knowing much, I'm going to tell you straight out. The fact that Netflix is putting this together, and seeing Netflix track record with Motu series, I have absolutely zero faith in what they're doing. I still believe this is going to be handed off to the wokeaholics of Hollywood. And then something gets handed off to the wokeaholics, it's rare for it to turn good. I mean, I am enjoying the new He-Man series, not named Revelation, but let's be honest, it's enjoyable because I had no expectation. And it's not horrible, it's actually pretty well written, and I do like the animation. But if they use this movie as another excuse to bank off of nostalgia fans like us by profiting off the toys, the comics that may ensue, who knows if there's a spin-off series or whatever, but then try to appease the wokeaholics by marginalizing He-Man's role in favor of whatever, it's not going to work. And while I don't have very much hope for it, I'm willing to give anything a chance. I'm more interested to know who's going to play Skeletor, and that's why I was waiting to see who's going to play Skeletor. I think I should play Skeletor for obvious reasons, don't you? Leave in the comments. Let's start a petition. Skeletor for Skeletor. What do you think? Let's start that trending online. Hashtag Skeletor as Skeletor. Anyway, enough about what I think. What do you think? Are you excited for it? Are you dubious because of Hollywood and Netflix's latest incarnations of Motu and other properties not being done well? Cowboy Bebop comes to mind? Death Note? Or is this the Death Note for Masters of the Universe? Hell, I'm telling you honestly, I want this to do well. I really do. But for obvious reasons, I have my doubt. Anyway, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Shaneology. And remember, hashtag Skeletor and Skeletor. Until next time.